I'm an Amazonian, I'm from the Colombian Amazon. This picture is 1960. When I was born, there was no, in my childhood, there was no electricity, no running water, no cars. But my mother had the idea to give me to God. So I was sent to a seminary in Bogota, and I got my education there. And then I was sent to Spain, studied 2 years of philosophy and 1 year theology, left the seminar, and I was in Franco time, studied literature in Madrid, and then became converted to a new religion, which is atheism, you know. But everything changed, because in 1971, in a bar, I met Terence. We were young. He was 25, I was 24. We spent 2 months together in this house near Florencia. I was having holidays, and we took yahe, you know, yahe and ayahuasca. I will show you the difference. And it was prepared by Apolinar Yacanamijoy, who was escaping the missionaries, the Capuchino Italian missionaries, from his place in Mocoa, went to a place called Yurayaco, close to where I was born, to Florencia. In 1971, Terence and I, we tried to get to him. It was impossible because it was rainy, we have no guide, it was forest. But anyway, that changed, you know, my experience changed everything for me. Spent a couple of months with Terence in Berkeley, and then dedicated the next years just to study, to read everything that I could find about psychotropic plants, about religion and anthropology, and even took courses in science, chemistry, and so on. And in 1979, I went back to Colombia after years I was then living in Norway. I was teaching literature there and taking courses in science. And then I had my second yahe experience. I had all these years of preparation. So I went with my brother, and then we took yahe. In my experience, I became a serpent. I understood later on that the theme of animal transformation is very important, not only in the Americas, but also all over the world. I mean, you have the oldest remnants of rock painting. You have the theme of animal transformation. Les Trois Frères in Hochstein, in many other places, Drakensberg in South Africa, you find it. But I didn't bring slides anyway. So yahe is this preparation of Banisteropsis capi plus Diplopterus cabrerana, which is another Malpighiaceus vine. But then ayahuasca is how is it going? Okay, like this. And ayahuasca, as many of you know, is the mixture, the vine together with the leaves of Psychotroph viridis. Both Diplopterus cabrerana and Psychotroph viridis contains dimethyltryptamine. And more or less you can have here the distribution of yahe and ayahuasca, although nowadays, of course, people are taking plants from one place to the other. Now you can take yahe in Peru, or you can take Psychotroph viridis in Colombia and so on. But yahe is the Banisteropsis capi is the main plant. Now this is already a reduction because there are many, many different kinds of Banisteropsis. Some of them probably not even Banisteropsis. So this idea of the origin of ayahuasca, it doesn't make sense, really, because the Amazonians have been experimenting with plants for probably, we know that the Amazon, they had people at least 12,000 years, and then we have to think that the Amazon was populated by perhaps 10 million people. In fact, the Amazon is not this, untouched forest at all. It is a anthropogenic forest created by human beings during thousands and thousands of years. So the Amazonians have been experimenting all sorts of admixture plants, and with these vines, with one of the vines, and many of the plants with Ananthera colubrina, peregrina, and so on. So really, this idea of the origin of, doesn't make sense, really. And I know the plant because we have been cultivating in our place in southern Brazil from the very beginning, from the seeds all the way. And then here we have two varieties, but there are only two. There are many more. These are called in Brazil, to the left, Tucunacá, and the other one, Caupuri. And in fact, this one with notes is the one who was described by Richard Spruce. I just suddenly I noticed, it said swollen at joints. So this is the one who has been described by Spruce, but the one that became more popular is the, without notes, is the tucuraca. Okay, we all know the pharmacology of ayahuasca, and I'm not going into that, but I just want to point out that harvey, one of the components in the vine, extremely important. There have been, there's a very good article by Dale Millar, broad-spectrum roles of harmine in ayahuasca in this book. And there were early studies by Jordi Riba showing neurogenesis with harmine. And so, this is Jordi Riba. And now there are new studies showing how harmine anti-tumor properties and antimicrobial and many different properties. And DMT, I just going to mention a couple of things. It was Braulio Araújo in Brazil who is studying the metabolism of DMT in Jurema mimosa tenuiflora, one of the plants that contain tryptamines, and showing how he discovered how DMT is produced in the plant in moments of stress. So when there are droughts, it's increased the levels of tryptamine, which is very similar in a way what may happen with us as well. It was Ede Fresca who suggested that DMT that we have in our lungs, a precursor of DMT, and in moments of great stress, like for instance hypoxia, and at the moment of death, of course, then there is the production, the going up the levels of DMT. Perhaps that's, we have been, if DMT doesn't save us, so it's leading us a psychopomp to other realms, But again, this is another simplification because this is just one sample of ayahuasca analyzed in Debrecen University in Hungary, and these are all these 120-something compounds, you find there. And this is just one preparation, nothing to do with all these other varieties. So already ayahuasca is a simplification. Ayahuasca is a whole word by itself. There's a reason why I say Banisteropsis is complex, And of course, this shows the enormous sophistication of knowledge, plant knowledge, and we're just thinking. Let's think of curare, which was so important for Claude Bernard, who was one of the great experimentalists. One of the plants used to make curare, which contains an alkaloid, blocks the action of acetylcholine and neurotransmitter responsible for muscle contraction. The curare, the Indians used to, not to kill the animal, but it relaxes the muscles, so it will go down like a ripe fruit, and you pick it up. And there are many curare, so there are something like 27 different species at least, being used for curare, and many other plants, So plants that will give you the possibility to use better the blowgun, plants that the Shipibo women used to get their hands very, to do all these very intricate designs, and so on, plants for all sorts of things. So I wanted to point out another thing which is very interesting, and this was something we have been discovering in our garden there in southern Brazil through Dale Millar, a South African naturalist. There is one of the fastest growing trees in the world is Schizolobium paraiba, garapubu. They call it is the canoe that comes from the ground in the Guarani language because the Indians make canoes. And they planted Banisteropsis capit close to a garapubu tree, and the two plants like each other. And now we have giant yahe growing. It is. Okay, here you have, okay, I'm sorry, the slides are, okay. So we have now Banisteropsis going 15, 20 meters. And one of the things that we find out is that Banisteropsis produces a lot of biomass, huge amounts of biomass, which means that we can use this plant for soils recovering. especially those soils that have been trampled by cattle. Banisteropsis grows in very poor soils, in very, and so we found out that this will be a way to recuperate if we think that harmine, the medicinal properties of harmine, which is not a Schedule 1, it is legal. And then the possibilities of recuperating soils in the Amazon especially, or in tropical areas with Banisteropsis and a fast-growing tree. So here we have the possibility of using the plant itself, for ecological, as agroforestry. Okay, you all know, this is what I made my dissertation. I found 72 indigenous groups using ayahuasca, but now there are many more because indigenous people have been, from other indigenous tribes, they've been acquiring the Banisteropsis and making it part of their culture. And there are myths, and the Tucano, for the Tucano, the Banisteropsis capi is the product of the son father impregnated a woman through her eyes, whom gave birth to a baby which was shining, and the baby was then taken apart from different people. She came to the god hut and said, "Who is the father of this child?" He said, I'm the father, and they took it apart, and these are the different varieties of ayahuasca. In the Pano, for instance, then the origin of ayahuasca is in the water. A man saw a beautiful woman, followed her. She was living under the water with her, and then they gave him ayahuasca. He realized that his wife was a serpent, and there was a serpent. He came out, died, but before dying, he gave the secret of the preparation of ayahuasca. There are many more myths. In Raisel Dolmatov, he wrote this very influential book for me and for many people, Amazonian Cosmos, in what he shows that Banisteropsis capi is very important for the Tucano and many other indigenous groups in the Amazon, and very important in the iconography. So that he found that the iconography in the Maloccas, in the ceramics, in the clothes, is all related to the visions. Something that was here, for instance, these are the Yahé vessels with the cosmic serpent. And something similar was found by Jean Landon, Emon de Siona. Also, she found that all the iconography, all the narratives, everything is related to the Banisteropsis. And as well as many of you know, it is the inspiration as well for many of the Shipibo women who does the ceramics and the textiles and so on. And here, just for the new people who have been talking about this, but they have forgotten the old guys, like me. So this Angelique Gebhardt, who was the first one who pointed out the relationship between ayahuasca and iconography. Well, my first work, I wanted to do a study with Apolinario Canamijoy, but he died. So I went to Peru and found the Vegetalista tradition, Mestizo, in 1980, and made a film about Don Emilio, and you can all see it, because it's on YouTube. And Don Emilio, then he became my teacher. He's the one who told me ayahuasca is a doctor, es un doctor. En Toe, Brugmansia is a doctor, and all these plants are doctores. And then the plants know each other. And I was asking, why do you take ayahuasca, Don Emilio? Oh, it is to clarify your mind and to strengthen your body. Not so much about visions. It was not so important. And I finding out that all this about, having visions is not so important. It's a medicine, something for your clarity. And I have come to the conclusion that it's one of the plants that help us to communicate with nature. And I will come to this later on. So all these plants, tobacco, Brugmansia, Caliandra, they are all plant teachers, and many others. Many of them are used as admixture plants, other by themselves. And in fact, in the Sibundoy Valley in Colombia, one way to learn the properties of other plants is just by adding it to the ayahuasca and getting in touch with the spirit of the plant. So I wrote my doctoral dissertation in Stockholm and made this film. You can find it YouTube. Don Emilio and His Little Doctors, 27 minutes, and it's the first film on ayahuasca. You know? And okay, this is my book. It was published in Czechish. And of course, then I met Pablo Amaringo. I will not come to that, but here we have the representation of this idea that plants are beings, are non-human persons that you can get in touch and communicate. So then I did field work in the Sibundoy Valley in 86 and found exactly the same idea when I was with the Kamsa and the Ingano, and then there was this young man who was an apprentice. He was a mestizo who was learning with Miguel Chindoy, who was the son of Salvador Chindoy. Schultes has been working with Salvador Chindoy, you know, and then he was 5 years working, in this 86. I wonder whether he is alive and he is now a great Taita, I don't know. So. But the idea of plant teacher, yeah, I found it already a long time ago. This is from a letter written in 1660. Brugmansia, used for divination with diabolic intent. It was a missionary who wrote this. It is called borrachera, floripondio, or campana, bell, given that the flower looks like one. They use them to cure persistent illness. Either they get healthy or die with it. It is also used to become maestros and learn the art of witchcraft. So here we have the idea of a plant teacher. And this is also what David Kopanawa in this fantastic book, The Falling Sky. This is a book which I really recommend. And then he says, I didn't learn to think about the things of the forest by putting my eyes on paper skins, books. I saw them for real by drinking the breath of life from my elders with the yacoana powder they gave me. This is Virola elongata, which contain 5-methoxy-DMT. Now, the way to learn from the plants is being in isolation, the dieta. Now, many people have done the dieta. In my time, I didn't know anybody who has done it, you know, so I wanted to see it from the inside, the phenomenology of this. So I spent several periods of dieta. Machikenga with the Chipivo. I was with the Chipivo for a month. I say dieta. There was no dieta really. It was a starvation because there was no food there, you know. So I spent a month there. And one of the things that I was interested in the plants, I was collecting plants and then to Timothy Plowman for identification. And then I was asking Don Basilio, where are the plants? You know, because what plants are you using for me? He said, you don't need, if you know the song of a plant, then you don't need the plant. Okay? So if you know the Icaro, and by the way, now that many people are here, Icaro, it is not Icaro, it is Icaro, because there is the verb icarar, which means to sing a song on something, tobacco or something. So please say Icaro, not Icaro, okay? That's, somebody started to say Icaro, and now everybody is saying that, okay? Okay. Then I did some field work among different religious organizations, using ayahuasca as a sacrament. I was with Barquilla, nobody had studied the Barquilla before. And then, which is a mixture, fantastic mixture of popular Catholicism and Kardechism, which is a spiritual religion, and then Afro-Brazilian religion. It's fantastic, you know, because they take the ayahuasca, are in the church for 4 hours meditating, singing, you know, it's very Catholic, you know, in a way. But then when they go out, the drums begin, you know, and then it's another thing, and they have possession. Short time? How many minutes I have? 10 minutes. Okay, good. So now I was interested how you can use ayahuasca. And in this religion, the use ayahuasca is mostly for incorporation of spirits, so that they become either the spirits of black slaves, of the Indians, of children, of princesses, and so on. So it's especially used for incorporating entities. You know, it's fantastic. You know. Okay, but then I was also working with the UDV. I'm not going to say much about that, but the only thing that I was struck is how they use ayahuasca for what they call el misterio da palabra, the mystery of the word, because it helps them to be eloquent in the way they talk. They talk in a specific way, putting always the light words, the positive words at the end, and so on. So they have a whole training for using of the word, and as well as training their memory, because they don't never write any, the stories are not written down, they have to memorize them. And by the way, there are so many ways of using ayahuasca. Benny Shannon, who passed away just a few months ago, a little bit, he used to say that ayahuasca will help you to improve performance of any kind. And I've seen that. Remember a young Swedish guy who had been training with Kung Fu, but he had abandoned in a way the practice, and he took ayahuasca, and then went to the gym where the Swedish team was there training, and somehow he was able to beat all of them. So, anyway. So now I go to another thing, So they say that ayahuasca and all these are doctores. But then we see that the plants are extremely intelligent. All what, Arabidopsis thaliana, just by touching the plant, you can have 10% of the plant genome altered. So Monica Galliano has written this book in which she said that the plants themselves gave her in dreams, the ideas for the experiments. And she's the one who proved how the same way that you can do the Pavlov experiment with the dog, you can do it with the plant. Oh, sorry, I got only the dog, not the plant, I'm sorry. But instead of having meat, you can have the light. Of course, the plant will go towards the light. You put a fan, doesn't mean anything for the plant, no. But then you put the light and the fan together, the plant will grow towards the light and fan, and then you put the fan and it will grow towards the fan, exactly the same idea. So, and the plants have so many tricks, and in fact, thinking, they are more intelligent, more than us. I mean, a plant is one place, it has the food, it's connected with everything under, with through the mycorrhiza. It is connected with through pheromones. It is like the whole brain, because it's able to feel touch, the wind, it sees, detect the light, detect sound. I mean, it's just incredible. And how have been we so blind not to see plants as intelligent beings? For instance, in this case, just by putting a caterpillar in a Solanum atropurpureum, it produces this extra floral nectar to attract the caterpillar. The caterpillar will go to the sugar and will never open their mouth again. They get stuck, and die, And the plants also have their personality. You put several, been planting now for 25 years. In fact, we are celebrating 25 years of ayahuasca this year. And you planted the Banisteropsis, any other plant, and they have their characteristics. Sometimes they behave in one way, some another. They are, individuals. And Trevavas said, biology suggests that intelligence encompasses the characteristic of detailed sensory perception, information processing, learning, memory, choice, optimization of resources, sequestration with minimal outlay, self-recognition, etc., etc. And green plants are intelligent organisms. There is a fantastic literature available now. Okay, I think that since I have very little time, so I will go. And I discovered the work of Günther Witzani, Austrian, who has, I recommend if you find it on the net, Basis Biokommunikation. He's working with all sorts of organisms and showing that everything, all the organisms, they have the same, even the cells are sentient cells. They take decisions. So the idea of being, on top of the pyramid, it doesn't make sense, Everything is connected, everything, so, because survival depends on having a way to communicate across the species divide. So, so animism, which is like what interests me most, is to a great extent the recognition that there is mind in life, that there is subjectivity in everywhere. So it is the recognition of personhood in a living world, which is what the indigenous people say, okay? So Edward Cohn, he said, identity is not something that belongs only to humans. Any entity that communicates through the use of signs can be considered a self, which gives rise to a complex ecology of identities, of which both humans and not humans are part. I like this idea that really we are connected. Okay, in our civilization here, we don't have a few living plants here, you know, and in our normal life we live in, you know, but once you are in, you know, and that's what I created with my wife, you know, being surrounded by a botanical garden all the time, observing what is happening, new birds come in, you know, frogs and this and that, so gradually attracting, you know, making a place livable, and then you see the relationship between everything that exists. So we got stuck with the car, and we all think of the car as this old guy, but in fact, he was 29 when he came with his ergo cogito, ergo sum, and all that, you know. So, and then he's the right, very, very pretentious. There exist no occult forces in stones or plants. There are no amazing and marvelous sympathies or antipathies. In fact, there exists nothing in the whole of nature which cannot be explained in terms of purely corporeal causes, totally devoid of mind and thought. We got stuck with this. You know, he divided everything into rex cogitans, rex extensa, you know, subject and object, human, non-human, culture, nature, and great mistake. We put ourselves up there in the pyramid, but then, in fact, you know, we live in a network, like David Mindel put it, you know, in this book, The Network of Life. You know, even in the beginning of life, you know, it is a network. It's a system of tangled streams, like a stream, variously dividing, joining, dividing again, and then carry lineage of organisms and their genetic material, you know, horizontal genes transfer, with succeeding generations linked by currents of heritability. So this is what we are, and we have to get rid of this conception of being at the top, you know. It doesn't work, you know. So in the indigenous way of looking at things, there's always subject to subject. So it's called a relational epistemology. And so there is no distinction really between culture and nature. Like in this painting by Paula Maringo, you know, where is nature, where is culture? It's all, you know, culture and nature at the same time. So I finished just saying a little bit about Wasiwaska, our center in, you know, I said 25 years of existence. We have this ethnobotanical garden with over 400 species of plants, not all psychoactives, like David said. No, we have some, but there are many. You know? And then we have been bringing also other Banisteropsis. We'll see how, you know, the Longialata, Muricata, and some of they are called ayahuasca, but they are not even indigenous Banisteropsis. And now we have established a very good relationship with indigenous people, you know, like this Leticia Yawanawa from the Purus River. I was there, and she came to Wasiwaska and took plants from Wasiwaska back to the Amazon. And the same happened with Waira Mutumbajoy, who is taking plants from Wasiwaska back to the Colombian Amazon, so exchanging. So, and I would just say that we are going to have this seminar on the 20th of June, interconnectedness. With a fantastic group of people, philosophers, scientists, botanists, psychiatrists, some group of neuroscientists. They call themselves, oh God, I forgot the, I forgot the name. They are working on the relationship between the gut and the brain. Gastronauts, they call them, you know, it's a whole new area. So very interesting, and it's something which needs to be done, because all this about the diet, why the diet, or, you know, there is something there. I don't believe that these are magical things. You know, we have these people are practical. Indigenous people are practical. If they say that you have to do the diet, it is because through the diet you get in some kind of better state of consciousness, a better communication with everything around us, not only here, not only through the eyes, but through all the senses. And it is communication also with the dreams, with songs, etc. You know, so I think that we need a new paradigm, and I think that this new paradigm, let's call it animism or whatever, you know, to the recognition of life, of intelligence everywhere, and us as humbly as part of a network. Okay, so thank you very much.